You're on.
Hey, is Kevin Hansberry on there? What's up there? Ray from Bridge Marina here in beautiful upstate New Jersey. It is, I'm hot. Shirt's coming off soon. It is literally like summertime in this boat right this second. We're in Lake Apatcong. I'm inside this shrink wrap boat hanging out. We're doing a little live thing. We're doing a little boating show here at the marina, but it feels like summer right this second. It's probably a good 70 degrees in here, and I'm not used to that. I got a lot of clothes on. And it literally, I was just sitting here with my eyes closed for a minute. It's like, man, I can see summer coming. And that's what we're here for today. I'm here to chat about boating because this is the time of year to talk about boating because we've got a few till the season hits. But if you're getting into boating or trying to change what you're doing in boating, figure things out like February, March, that is a time to be thinking about it because you don't want to try to get on the water when it's already June and July. And if you're not prepared, you won't be able to get on the water. So that's kind of what we're here for. Again, my name is Ray. I'm the owner here at Bridge Marina in beautiful Lake Opatcong, New Jersey. We're also in Highlands, New Jersey, the Jersey Shore. And we do a lot of different things with boating. Our general concept is we get people into boating and then we keep them there. And we do that with all the services we have as our company. We're very big on education. We also do a lot of rentals, boating and boat sales, and then run marinas to support all that. So it's pretty neat. We kind of have a whole flywheel of services we do as a company. And all of it's really, getting people on the water in a safe and fun manner, which, it's not as easy as everybody thinks. So if you're just getting into boating, we're here to help. So think of this live as an opportunity to ask questions. So wherever you're from, please feel free to ask questions. We get people from all over the world, definitely all over the United States. So wherever you're from, I'll try to help you out. And if I can't, I will try to direct you in the right spot. We got stumped on the last we did. Somebody from Qatar asked.
All right, we're back on.
Cool, we're back hot. Sorry about that. Phone actually overheated from sitting in the sun inside this boat. We'd left that camera in there for a little bit too long. Anyway, Ray Jersey. And I was just a second ago inside one of these pontoon boats or triple tunes we have, shooting from in there. And believe it or not, it gets rather warm in there. That fun for a little bit. And we had a little technical issue. But I appreciate you coming out. Once again, we're in Lake Pack. I'm talking about boating here. Thanks for watching, Kevin. I see you out there. And we're just talking about boating. We decided to hop outside because it is a beautiful day. So come along with me. So maybe you get an idea of what we do here. It is northern New Jersey, so we are frozen up here still. But boats are still in shrink wrap. I was inside that boat a second ago, but why don't we come out on our dock just to kind of see what we got here. But this will be gone soon because it is almost March 1st. And, I suspect in the next 30 days, we will be all water. This will be a lot softer out here and boats will be going in. And I say that because, really this is the time of year you should be starting to think about boating. Whether you own a boat or want to get into boating or you're just trying to figure things out, winter is a great time. At Bridge Marina, we do a lot of different things. This little promo for us, but we do education, training, rentals club, sales of boats, service, and we run marinas. And probably for folks that are just getting into it, the winter time is a great time to learn. Do your education side, schedule, conversations with folks in boating so you can understand what you're getting into. And then, of course, if you own a boat or maybe you're switching between different boating types or boating services, this is a great time to figure out, what marina do you want to be with, what service you need to do to your boat, or maybe you want to go to your and join a boating club, or maybe you're in a boating club and want to buy a boat, or maybe you're a renter into what you want to do. And we do that because it happens to be a very good way to kind of train everybody or kind of get folks in a different, and I think it's kind of fun. So anyway, was Lake of Patcong right over here for a second. Any reason why? So we're just having a bunch of little tech difficulties. Our Wi-Fi not working so great, but I appreciate you being patient with us as we kind of move around a little bit. Maybe we can get ourselves back inside one of these boats because that's probably what some of you guys want to check out. Why don't we go inside this boat? It's out of the sun and probably not so warm. Come on up here, guys. You fit in here? Come on in. And here we are inside a boat. Thanks for your patience, everybody. We're inside a shrink wrap boat, and this is kind of what it looks inside boats when they're in storage. This happens to be one of our pre-owned, this is a pre-owned club boat. So this is one of the boats that we have in our boating club. And this is a 22-foot triple pontoon. And if you don't know what that is, please feel free to ask. We take whatever questions are pretty well folks getting into boating in general. And always found, people's need service in boating is largely dependent on where they are in their life. And one of the challenges with most boat dealers or boating in general is it tries to silo people into certain types. And I'm a big believer that folks change the type of boater they are depending on where they are in their life cycle. By that I mean if you're young, let's say you're in your 20s and you're just getting, you don't have any family or kids or you got some free time, being a boat owner may not be such a hard problem because you got a lot of time to work on the boat, take care of the boat. May not have the money for the boat, but of course that might be a good time for you. And then you may get a little older and you have a family, and as maybe you're starting or you're working on a career, you got a small family, you may not have enough time to own a boat, which might be a great time to maybe rent a boat. And then of course your kids get a little bit older and maybe they're teens or 10, 15 years old. And boats are a great thing because it gets them out, gets them all together. You still may not have the time to own, where a boat club might be a good fit for you. or maybe renting a couple times. And of course, maybe you're retired and now you got tons of time. Well, now boat ownership might fit you because you can use it all the time. Of course, maybe a boating club will fit you because you don't want to deal with anything once you get to a senior age. So as you see, folks kind of change depending on where they are in their life, and we provide all those synergistic services in-house to kind of take care of you depending on your life. So anyway, that's what we do. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. We also love to hear where folks are from. So if you have a question, you tell me where you're from. That's just pretty cool. Lets me kind of figure out who you are, where you're at, and how I might be able to tailor my answer to you. But in general, we do a little bit of everything here. So don't feel like you can't ask us different types of questions. Got a question? Oh, we got a question coming. Thank you very much.
I'm not sure if you got to this one, but brand new Tri-Tune owners.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah. So Alex says he's a brand new Tri-Tune owner.
Cool.
It's close to putting her on the water. We're lost in all of what we need to do. Can you simplify or point to us where we can? We have 5 small kids.
Oh boy. Okay, so we got a brand new triple tune owner. Congratulations, with 5 small kids. You don't need one. You still should get one. You can get one through Boat US. It'll probably cover you just about anywhere. But that's a great way to start to get your education. The next would be see if you can get a little help with training, like someone to help show you how to operate the boat. And I would do that before you have all the kids on there. And then in regards to all those kids, obviously life jackets. Make sure you get life jackets for everybody. And it would really help, you and your spouse to have conversations with those kids before you get on the boat in regards to boating safety. I'd say a 15-year-old, when they were young, the best thing I could do was make them sort of my, first mates, or make them sort of my mates on the boat, give them some rules as what they can and can't do, and give them jobs. So if you give all your kids a job when they're on the boat, like finding the dock lines, finding the throw cushion, grabbing the dock pole, staying in certain seats, it becomes more of a team event. And when it becomes a team event, they tend to be more of your help or part of your team rather than you having to run the whole boat and corral all the kids in advance. So those would be a couple big tips, basic education, hands-on training, and try to create some roles for those kids when you get on the water. Have all the safety equipment for them. Those are some great things to do for them. So great question. I appreciate it. And good luck with the boating. And if you have any questions, feel free. I'm here for you too. So, looks like another question.
So, Tom, we seem a little laggy, so maybe we want to get to Wi-Fi a little bit better.
Gotcha. I'm not sure where that'll be, but thank you very much for that. Yeah.
And then the other question about rentals.
Yep.
What do people typically do on a boat rental?
What do people typically do on a boat rental? Sorry, I'm just checking to make sure my Wi-Fi is still working for me, and I am. Cool. So what do people do on a boat rental? A lot of things. You got to remember, if you're taking a boat out for a rental, it depends on the company you're renting from. Quite much flexibility for rentals as others. So I'm going to take my company as that one that doesn't. So when we rent to folks, we don't give them like carte blanche in regards to horsepower boats or to do water sports or to go out at night. Like, we have it pretty regulated. That's not everybody. That's us. We're very safety, oriented. We want folks to rent in a safe manner. And, there are some companies that give you a little bit more, I'm going to say, flexibility. Just be careful. If you don't know what you're getting into, watch how much you jump into. There's folks that want to rent a boat day one, never having boating experience, and doing water sports with their family. And that's a pretty high risk environment to be in. But, depending on where you go, a lot of things with boat rentals is go out and kind of dip your toe in the water, try to get comfortable with the waterway, maybe go cruise to a restaurant, go drop anchor, do some swimming, things of that nature. One of the great parts about being out on a boat is you're out in a boat. When I'm out here with a family, like, phones are down, we're talking about things. The only time we're really using the phone is taking pictures, and it really gives you an opportunity to enjoy nature and enjoy each other. So, going around a boat is either really relaxing or really exhilarating, depending on how fast you go. So a boat rental could be a lot of fun to kind of get your feel for what it's like to be on the water. say if you really like that, you may want to consider the next step, which is like a boating club, which usually includes, especially here, a lot more training, and then a lot more flexibility on the type of boats and what you can do, and then you can do just about everything. So it looks like you got another question.
What is your honest opinion on pontoons? Yay or nay?
Oh, we got an honest opinion on pontoons, yay or nay. So my honest opinion, my objective opinion on it, I'm going to be as objective as I can. I mean, I own a Marina and sell a bunch of them, but they're really good boats. I think one of the biggest challenges with pontoon boats is they have that stigma of being like, let's be honest, like a minivan, right? Like nobody wants to drive around a minivan. But if you ever drove a minivan, you're like, wow, these things are pretty comfortable. So boats are, pontoon boats are really comfortable boats, especially nowadays. I mean, you see the layout on this thing. This one's 150 horsepower. It's not uncommon to see 200, 250, 300, and they're fast. So like there's a lot of triple pontoon boats that are faster than fiberglass boats. And then, if you really respect and understand the handling characteristics, you might even find they handle better than a regular fiberglass pontoon. Certainly they're going to ride better. They corner a little bit better, and I say better by, not throwing your crew around so much. So I'd say, my honest opinion is triple pontoon boats are a little bit underrated by some. And, I guess if you really just look at the overall market where boats have been going the last 10 years, like the market's telling everybody, people like them, especially now that you can put a lot of horsepower behind them. They've become super plush and comfortable. Like they're pretty good boats. And I'd even say that in saltwater. We have another location down in Highlands, New Jersey, which nobody really liked triple pontoons down there. And now they're starting to become more popular. And I've taken them out in rough water, calm water, shallow water, deep water. They're pretty fun and pretty capable. Not perfect for everything, much like I don't think there is a perfect boat that does everything, but they're pretty versatile. So thank you very much for the question about the pontoon boats. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask. I'll try to answer whatever I can. I can talk about service, sales, club rentals, training, regulation, Lake Opatcong, whatever you want. But for now, I'm going to hop out of this boat. Let's get outside a little bit. Let's go see what's going on. And if I can, before I hop out, this particular boat is a 21-foot triple pontoon. So when we talk about, is a pontoon boat a good boat? Like this thing's 21 foot and can handle 10 people easy. Goes about 35, 40 miles an hour. That's pretty versatile, especially when you start looking at the price tag on them. That compared boat is a bit less expensive. Swatch your step. Come on out. So you think we can head back out to the lake and see what's going on? All right, cool. Come on this way. We'll go back out and see what's going on the lake. And we got a bunch of different types of triple pontoon boats here. And we also do fiberglass boats as well. And of course, if you are thinking about getting into boating, there's a big difference between the two in regards to, what you're going to do with a boat, how you feel about boating, what kind of boater you are. So as you're thinking about, if you're thinking about owning a boat, you want to make sure you go to some place and you really ask yourself a lot of questions. I'd say probably one of the biggest problems I see when they're buying a boat is they sort of get set on boats based on maybe aesthetics or perhaps on what other people have. And I say that because things like center consoles became really popular in the boating market for a long time. They still are popular and they're a pretty versatile boat. But a lot of times folks go to buy a center console because from a male perspective, it's like an SUV or kind of like a truck. Like they're pretty cool, they're pretty rugged, go fishing, do all that kind of stuff. But then the reality of it is if you're a male, let's just use me, an adult male, and I go get like a rugged boat, or like if I went and bought a Jeep, which is probably a good equivalent of a center console, it's not a general use boat. It's really good for fishing. It's good for some rough water. It's an open boat. But the challenge is I also have a family, and when you bring your family out on that center console, they're not as comfortable. And if they're not as comfortable and they don't want to come use your boat, you're going to get less use out of that boat, and you're going to find it not as valuable to you. And if it's not as valuable to you, you don't use it a lot, the boat just doesn't become as valuable to you as a boater, and sooner or later you're going to want to get out of it. Or, maybe your wife doesn't like it or your kids don't like it, and then that's not really what it was there for. I think if you're getting into boating, or at least me, my humble opinion is, it is, boats there to kind of bring people together, not to separate them. So when you're thinking about buying a boat, really contemplate all the different things you're going to do with it and what your end use is. If it's just you going out and your family's not going to be involved, different story. If you're trying to get your family involved, you might want to consider something different. So I'm always a big fan of dual console fishing boats, which is more like a big bow rider, because you can still fish off them really well. They still can handle rough water, but when you bring your family out, they feel way more comfortable. But that's, again, my opinion. Anyway, come on over. We're here. Again, if you just hopped on here, somehow this popped on your page, Ray Fernandez with Bridge Marina. I'm here in Lake Hopatcong, or upstate New Jersey, and we are on the lake, which is frozen. And you can see that, but there's actually somebody walking off in the distance crossing the lake. We probably are ballpark foot ice out here still. So we're going to be frozen for a little while. Hopefully by the end of the month, this is end of next month, end of March. Hopefully this is all melted. But we run a rather, large marina here, 100 slips here. We have another 100 on the lake. Here's where we do all our boating club and boat rentals, as well as our gas dock here in the lake. And in probably 3 or 4 months, this is full of boats. So don't fret. Summer's coming. Like, this snow's all leaving. And if you are thinking about getting into boating here this year, that's a lot of what we're talking about here today. Is this is the time to start planning for it, whether you need boat education, boat training, or you're trying to decide what kind of boat or what kind of boater do I want to be. I've talked about this earlier, whether you want to be a boat owner, or maybe you want to be a renter this year, or you want to join a boating club, or maybe you just want to borrow your buddy's boat. Those are really the 4 types of boaters. Plus, don't forget we have the I shouldn't be a boater at all people, which is okay. You just got to decide what you are. But if you like, ask any questions you can right here. I'm glad to answer whatever you want. We get a couple questions about service or storage. I've had questions about training or education. I'm glad to answer whatever I could. And that's what I'm here. So just put them on the post. I'll be glad to answer the questions. So once again, we're here in Lake Hopatcong. This is about a 2,600 acre lake in northwest New Jersey. We're about 45 minutes out of Manhattan, about 30 minutes out of Pennsylvania. And of course, we have another location in Highlands, New Jersey, which is about 25 miles or 20 miles south of Manhattan, just across the bay. And that's really a nice saltwater location, which gives us, as Bridge Marina, we get salt and we get fresh water, which is kind of cool. And if you come and join us, you'll actually get some access to salt and fresh. So if you're not sure what you want to be, feel free to ask us questions. Maybe join us. We're glad to help you. We're here all day today doing a little bit of a boating show because it's a pretty nice day out. So we thought we'd invite some folks out to the lake. Got some boats opened up. So if you're interested, stop in. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. That's what we're here for. Any questions pop up there, Gus?
No, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let me jump in regards to what we do again. We're here, we do education. We do, why don't you walk backwards so they can kind of get it? Yep, we do education, we do training, we do boat rentals, we do boating club. Of course, we sell new and pre-owned boats. And then we also service boats, store boats. We kind of take care of a little bit of everything as Bridge Marina. Now, sometimes people may think that that's not a strength, but one of the things we've realized is that, everyone always talks about full service marinas. And the reason that you can kind of do that is all those services we provide are very synergistic in that we have captains who are trainers, both from an educational standpoint as well as from a hands-on training. And they can also help deliver new and pre-owned boats. And then, of course, we do tons of service. We probably service 400 plus boats in a year, in regards to our sort of service fleet. And that allows us to maintain our own fleet of boats as well as our guest fleet of boats in a really high standard to make sure they can use them when they want to use them. So, and then of course with that, we sell new and pre-owned boats that kind of fill in all our fleets, as well as for boat owners who want to own a boat. So we do a little bit of everything here. It is wintertime, so I kind of apologize for it looking a little bit messy in here. We literally are just getting done with some snow, and hopefully there's no more on the way. But New Jersey had a lot of snow this year. Not uncommon. We deal with this from time to time, and it's just kind of part of living here. I'm hoping this is over, and I'm hoping it starts to melt because it's almost March. I'm thinking, in 3 or 4 weeks, we're out on the water. I hope. At least I hope. So if you're thinking about that for yourself, that you want to be out on the water this year, it's probably time to start talking to people like me or people like my team to think about what's going to get you into boating, whether you need to get your boater education course done. some training done. Maybe you need to figure out if you're a renter, a club person, or an owner, or maybe you're one of the three already and you're just trying to decide, should I change? Because this is a good time of year. Maybe you rent boats a bunch and you're doing it so often, you want to consider owning one or being in a club. Or maybe you own one and you're kind of tired of dealing with owning one and you're thinking, is a club the right fit for me? That's kind of what we do. We're pretty low pressure on the sales side. We're here to help you make a good decision. So feel free to reach out. Feel free to ask questions right here too. I'm glad to kind of help you figure out what might fit you. Again, we get a lot of folks that are kind of in between, figuring whether they're going to be a boat owner or a boat club person or a renter. And I'm glad to help you out wherever I can. So you got a question over there?
One thing real quick. Our friend with the Tri-Tune is on the Tennessee River.
Tennessee River? Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah.
That's neat. Hopefully we added some value. Did any follow-up questions from him?
No follow-up questions that I see from him.
Thank you.
But I do have one question about anchoring.
Cool. We got an anchoring question. That's always a hard one.
Videos on anchoring. I always seem to slip.
Yeah, we've actually got a few videos out there on anchoring. Anchoring is a tough one. It's tough to video too, by the way. And I think that's one of the challenges. So thanks for the question about anchoring, by the way. I'm not sure who that was from, but I appreciate it because anchoring is probably one of those hard things that folks don't realize about boating that takes a little time to learn. And it's a bit of an art. It's a bit of a science. And probably the best thing you can think about when you go and anchor a boat is it takes a little bit of practice. So my biggest suggestion to folks when they're anchoring is, one, to learn how their anchor works. Next would be to make sure it's the right anchor for the boat. You see, anchors work differently. There's different types of anchors, and each anchor kind of can depend on the type of water body you're in. Probably the most popular one you see is like a Danforth anchor. So it's like, it's got a shaft with like 2 flukes on it, and that fluke goes back and forth. I don't have any readily accessible or I'd show it to you. I got some in the store, actually. Yeah, could you grab me one? Somebody's going to grab me a Danforth anchor. It should be over on this side of the store. So different types of anchors, and they kind of depend on how different anchors will hold the boat in a different manner. And then the next thing becomes, you need to know how big your boat is and match it to that anchor. And when you do that in the boat size, it's important not only to know I've got a 20, maybe it's a 22-foot triple tune, but how many people am I putting in? What's its total weight? Because that's going to dictate how big that anchor should be. And then you'll also be able to cheat a little bit with that anchor by changing some of the chain in the line that's on there. So it's important to know, how does the anchor work? And then of course, do I have the right anchor for my boat? And then when you go and start exercising, like using it, it'd be like if I just started running, I wouldn't try to go run the New York Marathon. I would try, just running around my block to start. And then here, I'll take that anchor, please. Thank you. And the challenge I see with everybody is folks get in a boat and they want to go anchor in, a popular cove that happens to be really deep on a busy weekend, which is like I'm going in the New York Marathon. Because one of the challenges with anchoring is deeper water. When you have deeper water, it's harder to anchor because I need to lay out my tackle differently. And then of course, if I go to a busy cove, I've got a lot of people around me. And that makes it even harder because boats, if you don't do it right, the boat drifts, it makes you nervous. You might entangle with somebody else. And so, you really want to go practice anchoring in more shallow water on a quieter day where you can learn how that anchor actually works. So probably one of the biggest challenges with anchors is folks don't realize these aren't about weight necessarily. So this is a small anchor and this is probably good for, 16, 18-foot boat. It's also just a lightweight, kind of cheap one. So this is not one I would anchor my 20-something foot pontoon boat with. This would be for a 16-foot center console, maybe, something that was kind of light. But most anchors are pretty light and they're meant to be, so whoever's handling them can move them around. This particular type is, again, Danforth style, and it's got these 2 flukes on here. And the idea behind these are when it lays on the bottom of the water body, if this lays down on the water body and the boat is pulling it, this is where the line attached. These flukes dig in, so they dig into the bottom of the water body like a plow. And if they do that, they'll end up lodging in the bottom and stopping the boat. But probably one of the biggest challenges, folks will pick an anchor that's small because it's easy to handle and then put it on a big boat. And while I probably could get this to hold that boat, to do so, I would need a lot of chain on the front of it, a lot of line out or a lot of scope out. And that just makes it hard because most folks don't realize that the the amount of scope or the amount of line I need to let out to get this to lay flat on the bottom of the water body is a lot more than you think. So if you go and you do your boater education, very often the number in the boater education course is 7 to 10 lengths of rope for every length of depth. So it's like a scope of, let's use 10 to 1. So if I'm in 10 feet of water, you know, you'd want to let out 100 feet of line. It's a lot of line, isn't it? And folks don't let out anywhere near that. Now, I might tell you when you're out in the water, you know, probably the more average that you'll have to do is probably a 5 to 1 or 3 to 5 to 1. And again, depends on depth, depends on boat load, depends on wind. But even at a 5 to 1 scope, if I'm in 10 feet of water, I let out 50 feet of line. That seems like a lot. But sometimes that's what's needed in order to get this to lay flat and to lodge in the bottom of that water body. Now, of course, once you have that anchor secured, you usually can bring in some of that scope so that it doesn't have to lay so flat. But understanding all that is the science behind anchoring. Now, the art behind it is perhaps that little trick I said about pulling in your scope once it's anchored. The art behind it is knowing what kind of lake bottom it is. You know, like when you go out in the lake, you can't tell what's on the bottom of the water because you're not on the bottom of the water. So you need to know, is it soft? Is it rocky? Is it weedy? Because once you can know that, you can kind of get a feel for what might be the best amount of scope and anchor to use. And then, of course, it's a little bit of that art of, you know, when I have 5 people in the boat versus 4, how does the boat anchor? And of course, if I have 5 people in the boat and there's a 10-knot wind, how do I need to anchor? And again, that's probably science, but it really feels like art to me. So anchoring can be really challenging. I think that takes me back to one of the bigger problems that's with boating is folks don't realize there's a learning curve with that. And by that, I mean, you know, you can't just grab a boat, grab an anchor and go out and figure it out on your own. Like, it takes a bit of practice. And that's probably what most folks get really frustrated with is, you know, it's not like I can just go rent a car and drive it. If I go rent a boat, there's certain things I need to kind of learn and know, and that can frustrate folks. And I guess I'm here to say, that's just part of the deal. And I'm here to say, that's what we're here for. And that's why we do training. That's why we do education. And that's why we do tons of our content. And you can find some anchoring videos from us. If you look through, probably our YouTube would be the easiest way to search it up. But I will admittedly say they're hard to shoot too, without really high production and underwater cameras. But we've tried a couple different ones about like being at a sandbar and watching how anchors lodge into a sandbar, like when the anchor's exposed. We've done a couple with drones trying to shoot where it is, but it can be hard to video. So if you're new to boating or you're trying to figure out anchoring, I hate to say this, one of the best things to do is go out and practice. And do it in shallow water first, so you really can watch how that anchor lodges itself in. You know, like do it in 3, 4, 5 feet of water. Watch how the anchor gets stuck, and watch when you let out, you know, a little bit of scope, so the line's steep, and then watch what happens when you let out a lot of scope, so that line is kind of parallel with the water body or parallel with the bottom of the water body, and watch the difference. Or take chain on, like remove the chain and tie in a rope and see how it works. Throw a bunch of chain on and see how it works. And I know that could take time. But once you do that, you start to realize that, you know, anchoring isn't all that hard. It just requires a little bit of thought. And I guess I'll give you my final number 1 tip about anchoring is nobody's perfect at it. You know, I've anchored thousands of times in my life. And every time I set out an anchor, even though I think through stuff and lay it out, and I still always go, it's probably not going to work. And not because I'm a pessimist, because there's a chance it's not going to work. So I tie it off. I don't get frustrated. I like to see when it's set. And then I'm always like, yeah, let me just pick a couple spots on land to make sure I know where the boat is. And maybe I got to reset it. Maybe I got to set out line, but I don't get upset because I'm not perfect. And anchoring is not perfect either. So don't be upset if you practice and it doesn't work out for you. Anyway, so I'm Ray Fernandez. I appreciate you guys watching me here, wherever you might be. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We're on a lot of places right now. And if you stayed with me for any period of time, I appreciate your patience as we went through some technical difficulties today. We're trying some new platforms, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that's boating too, and that's what we do. And we understand that. And if we can help you in any manner, reach out to us. Go check out some of our stuff. We're on all those platforms. We have tons of content about just about anything about boating, between buying a boat, renting a boat, owning a boat, training, boating club. We really put out a lot of content to give you some value. And if we can be of any service to you, that's what we're here for. So I appreciate you watching. I hope we're of some service, and I look forward to seeing you in the water this year.